Do you got stacks of 12 by 12 paper pads that you don't know what to do with? Hang out with me for a bit and we'll find some ways to chop it up. Hi, my name is Jenny and I am a paper hoarder. I have so many stacks of 12 by 12 paper, and today I'm going to share with you a really fun way to chop up an entire 12 by 12 paper pad. So I have this paper from Recollections called Wildflowers. I was digging through my stash and I realized I had two of these paper pads. So I figured I'm going to cut it up, and I'm also going to do a giveaway at the end of today's video. So stick around and find out how you can be entered in to win. So my first step in this process is to tear out each sheet. I remove every piece of paper from the paper pad and make sure that I don't have any of that glue that holds the paper pad together. And I'll tear that all out. And then once everything is separated, I have these two pieces. I have the two cover pieces left, and I like to use these for book covers. So I always save these, and they're great for alternative crafts. So to start cutting, the first thing I'm going to do is think about the orientation of my paper. I'm going to show you two different ways to cut this up. So the first way, I want my pattern to be facing towards the left, and across the bottom, I'm going to cut off 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to turn my paper upright and start cutting at 4-inch increments. So I'll have 3 pieces that measure 4 by 10.5. And then I'm going to turn them, and across the 10.5-inch side, I'm going to cut them at 5.25. So this is going to give me 6 panels that measure 4 by 5.25. And these are going to fit perfectly on the front of an A2 size note card. I'm going to pull out a card base here, and let's take a look at what this will look like. So I have just a regular standard top folding A2 size note card, and this pattern paper will lay perfectly on the front of my card with a little white border. And I have this strip left over, and later on I'll show you what I do with those. Now for the second way to cut this up, I'm going to put my pattern in my trimmer upright and cut off 1.5 inches. So my pattern should be standing straight up and down. I'll cut off that 1.5-inch strip and I'll set that off to the side. I'm going to turn this, and then I'm going to cut it at 4-inch increments. Same as we had done previously, but the patterns are now in a landscape mode. So I've got 3 pieces that measure 4 by 10.5, and then I'll pop them back in my trimmer across the 10.5-inch side and cut down to 5.25. And once again, this gives me 6 panels that measure 4 by 5.25. And they will layer the exact same way on the front of an A2 size note card. One way we've cut it portrait, and one way we've cut it landscape. It just depends on what you prefer. Now, I like to do both. There are 3 of each design in this paper pad, so I end up cutting 2 sheets in a portrait mode style and 1 sheet in a landscape style. All right, so I'm going to rip through this paper pad and cut up all these papers. If you don't have any mojo or don't have any desire to create, try this. Try getting into your crafty space and just chopping up some papers and see if this sparks any ideas or creativity. And if nothing else, you've got ready-made card fronts for when you do have any ideas. And then once this is all done, this is what we have. These huge stacks of ready-to-go card fronts. The next thing I'm going to do is separate all of these panels into 6 piles. You might wonder, what would I do with all these piles of card fronts? Well, there are a lot of things that you can do with them. You can use them to create your own cards. You can use them to create note card gift sets. You can use them to swap with other crafty friends that you might have. They may have pattern papers that you don't have, and this is a great way to swap up with your friends. So I end up with 2 piles of landscape panels and 4 piles of portrait panels. And then I have all of these strips left over. So I'm going to set these off to the side for a second, and we'll come back to those in just a minute. Now there are still these solid color papers that were in the paper pack. I didn't really feel like these would be well suited for the way I was cutting up these papers. So I saved those for another project. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them. I'll come back to that another time. I'm happy with what I've done so far. So I'm going to take these and put them into little plastic sleeves. These little sleeves I use for my handmade cards. I buy them from craft stores. You can get them at the dollar store. So I have lots of them. You can use other packaging as well. If you have stamps that you picked up, it's similar packaging. It's a wonderful way to package to make it look really neat and tidy and easy to store in your craft space. All right, let's take a look at those strips now. So I'm going to take all of the strips that I used for my portrait style card fronts, and they are 1.5 inches by 12 inches. So I'm going to cut them in half to 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to cut them down into 4-inch pieces. So I'll end up with 6 pieces that measure 4 by 3/4 of an inch. And I like to put these on the inside of my cards. It just ties everything together. It creates a nice flow, tying that pattern that's on the front of your card into the inside, makes it very professional looking. So I ran through all of these strips, cut them all up, and now I'm going to put a set of strips into each little package. So I ended up with 6 sets of strips, but I only have 4 sets of portrait style card fronts. So I'm going to have a bunch left over, but that's okay. I've got a couple of ideas for those too. So I'm going to slip those into the package, and then there we go. We have 4 packages of these little strips. There aren't enough for every single card front in the package, but you can use them or not use them. You can turn them into little flags or banners or find other uses for them. But I thought they would be nice inside of the little package. All right, for the landscape style strips, I'm going to cut them in half at 6 inches. I haven't quite decided if I wanted to use them in the same way or if I wanted to keep them as larger strips. So I just cut them in half at 6 inches. And I'm going to put a set of strips in each package with the landscape style cards. And then everything is done. We've got these beautiful sets with these extra little strips. So much creativity and fun can be had with one little pack of pattern paper here. All right, so I've got a couple of little bonuses. First, I wanted to show you what I do with those little strips. So I just take them and insert them into the card at the very bottom, just like this. I think it just looks really pretty. And then the matching pattern paper on the front. And then you can also take some of those strips and create patterns like this on your card. You can mix and match all the different pattern papers and create strips. You can also kind of lay them down like tile. You could create different patterns with the strips in a diagonal fashion like this. Just line them up and meet them together. You can put them like this. So many different fun ways. I also like to kind of weave them together like a basket weave. So I take some coordinating patterns, create a little basket weave, and I can put that right on my card front. And that's a fun and interesting look using up those little tiny scraps. All right, so that's going to be it for today's video. If you want to win a package of this beautiful pattern paper, all you have to do is be subscribed to my channel, like this video, and leave me a comment down below. I will select a random winner. The contest is open to US and Canadian residents. The contest will close March 1st, 2025, and I'll notify the winners. All right, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I hope that you got inspired to get to chopping up some of your pattern paper. Coming up on screen is a playlist of over 100 videos of inspiration to get you into chopping up your papers. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!